Imagine you are standing on the deck of a fishing boat, 50 miles off the coast of California, when the ocean suddenly goes quiet. No birds, no splashing, no dolphins riding the waves. Then the sonar lights up with something impossible. A moving shadow longer than a school bus, wider than a pickup truck, and heavy enough to crush a modern great white shark like a toy. For millions of years, Megalodon has been gone, buried in stone, remembered only by teeth bigger than a human hand. But tonight in the modern ocean one returns, no warning, no cage, no ancient world to contain it. Just one prehistoric super predator entering a sea filled with whales, ships, sharks, submarines, and humans who think they own the planet. The question is not just whether Megalodon could survive. The real question is this: if Megalodon came back today, would the modern ocean survive it? Before we drop this monster into the modern ocean, we need to understand what Megalodon actually was. This was not just a bigger great white shark. Megalodon was an oceanic weapon system built by evolution. A predator that ruled warm seas for millions of years. Most estimates place it somewhere around 50 to 60 feet long, with some individuals possibly pushing even larger. That means a full-grown Megalodon could be 3 times the length of a large great white shark. With a body mass that may have reached tens of tons, its teeth were thick, triangular blades designed not simply to cut flesh, but to break bone, tear through blubber, and disable massive prey in a single attack. A modern great white bites with terrifying force. But Megalodon may have had one of the most powerful bites of any animal that ever lived. It did not need speed alone. It had mass, leveraged jaws, and strategy. This animal likely hunted whales, large dolphins, seals, sea turtles, and anything big enough to justify the energy cost of an attack. It was not built to nibble. It was built to remove pieces of animals the size of buses. And unlike a movie monster that simply charges at everything, Megalodon would have been calculated. Large predators cannot afford useless fights. Every hunt must be worth the energy. Every injury can become a death sentence. So the most terrifying thing about Megalodon is not just that it was huge. It is that it was probably smart enough to choose the perfect moment. It would approach from below, using the darkness of deep water as cover. It would target fins, tails, rib cages, and organs. It would not always need to kill instantly. Sometimes all it needed was one catastrophic bite. Then it could circle back while the victim weakened. If you enjoy deep-sea survival stories like this, stay with us. Because the modern ocean is about to meet something it has not seen in millions of years. Now imagine Megalodon does not return in some empty prehistoric sea. It appears in the modern Pacific, one of the largest hunting grounds on Earth. At first the ocean seems perfect. There are gray whales migrating along the American west coast. Humpback whales feeding in rich waters. Elephant seals packed on beaches. Sea lions moving in noisy colonies. Tuna, squid, dolphins, and sharks all filling the food chain. For a predator this large, the buffet looks endless. But the modern ocean is not the ocean Megalodon remembers. The climate has changed. Ocean temperatures are different. Pre-migrations follow new patterns. Many whale species are protected now, but still recovering from centuries of hunting. Noise pollution fills the water from cargo ships, military sonar, oil exploration, and fishing fleets. Plastic, chemical pollution, warming seas, shrinking fish stocks, and human technology have all transformed the battlefield. Megalodon would enter a world richer in some opportunities, but far more complicated than the ancient ocean. It would need warm enough water, enough large prey, and enough space to hunt without burning too much energy. A giant predator cannot live on small fish. It needs massive meals. One large whale carcass could feed it for days, maybe longer, but failed hunts would be expensive. The modern ocean also contains competitors that did not fear ancient sharks the same way. Orcas. Killer whales are not just predators. They are organized, social, intelligent hunters with family groups, communication, strategy, and memory. A lone Megalodon might be larger than any single orca, but a pod is not a single animal. A pod is a tactical unit. And that means the modern ocean would not simply bow down. It would test Megalodon from the very first week. In the first few days, Megalodon would probably not attack everything in sight. That is one mistake people make when imagining ancient predators. A giant shark does not waste energy chasing every moving target. It studies the environment, it follows vibrations, it learns migration routes, it identifies weakness. The first victims would likely be large, vulnerable marine animals. A sick whale, a young whale separated from its mother, a seal leaving the safety of a colony, or a dead whale carcass floating miles offshore. Carrion would matter. A predator this large would not ignore free calories. But once it begins hunting, the effects would ripple through the ecosystem. Gray whales might alter migration paths. Sea lions might avoid certain feeding zones.
Great white sharks might disappear from traditional hunting grounds if Megalodon starts stealing kills or attacking competitors. Whale watching boats could begin reporting strange behavior. Pods moving closer to shore, sudden panic among dolphins. Dead whales with bite marks far larger than anything known today. Scientists would first assume ship strikes. Unusual orchid attacks or disease. Then the teeth marks would not match. The spacing would be wrong. The wounds would be too massive. The bite radius would suggest something impossible. Within weeks, coastal authorities would notice patterns. A dead humpback found off Monterey Bay. A missing tagged great white near Guadalupe Island. A whale calf vanishing near Baja, California. A fishing crew recording a dark shape under their boat. Bigger than anything their sonar can classify. The modern ocean would not collapse overnight, but fear would spread fast. Not among the animals first, but among humans. Because humans are very good at pretending the ocean is controlled. Until something rises from below and reminds us it never was. The first major clash would not be with humans. It would be with another predator, the great white shark, in places like South Africa, Australia, and California. Great whites dominate the fear in people's imagination, but next to Megalodon, a great white becomes a middleweight fighter standing in front of a prehistoric tank. If Megalodon entered a great white hunting zone, the smaller sharks would probably leave. Sharks are survivors, they understand risk. A great white might investigate, maybe even steal scraps, but a direct fight would be suicide. One bite from Megalodon could shatter the smaller shark's body. The real challenge would come from Orcas. Imagine a pod of killer whales detecting a giant intruder near a whale calf. They do not panic, they coordinate. One circles wide, two move behind, another targets the shark's flanks. Orcas have been known to attack large sharks by using intelligence, teamwork, and precision. Against Megalodon, the danger would be extreme, but the strategy would still matter. A lone orca would be in serious trouble. A pod of 6 or 8 might force Megalodon to retreat, not because they are stronger individually, but because they can attack from multiple angles and protect each other. This would be the first moment the ancient predator realizes the modern ocean has evolved new rules. Size is terrifying, but intelligence in numbers can be just as deadly. Now push the simulation further. What if Megalodon moves closer to shore? Could it meet crocodiles in tropical waters near northern Australia? A saltwater crocodile might cross paths with a young or injured Megalodon in shallow coastal areas. A full-grown saltwater crocodile is a nightmare in rivers and estuaries, but in open water against an adult Megalodon, it is outmatched. The crocodile's armor, bite, and ambush style are perfect for muddy shallows. Not for fighting a 60-foot shark in deep water. Megalodon would not hunt crocodiles as a main food source. But if one entered the wrong channel at the wrong time, the result would be brutal and fast. What about hippos? In Africa, hippos are some of the most dangerous animals near freshwater systems, but Megalodon is a marine predator. It would not be cruising deep into rivers like a crocodile. If a scenario forced contact in a coastal river mouth, the hippo would be aggressive, massive, and dangerous in shallow water. But again, the environment decides the fight. In shallow muddy water, Megalodon loses mobility. In deeper coastal water, the hippo is exposed. The ancient shark would not care about reputation. It would care about angle, depth, and whether the bite is worth the risk. A lion, a bear, an elephant, these animals dominate land, but Megalodon belongs to the sea. If a lion stands at the edge of the water, it is not prey worth chasing. If a bear feeds on salmon near the Alaskan coast, Megalodon would still be unlikely to target it unless the bear swam far from shore. An elephant crossing deep coastal water would be rare. Dangerous and energetically strange as prey, Megalodon is not a monster with a checklist. It would not travel the world looking for famous animals to defeat. It would follow calories. Whales, seals, large fish, and carcasses would matter far more than land animals. That is what makes this simulation realistic and scarier. The most dangerous predator is not the one that fights everything. It is the one that knows exactly what to ignore. Then humans enter the story. At first we would respond with curiosity. Research vessels would deploy tags, drones, underwater microphones, and satellite tracking. Marine biologists would call it the discovery of the century. Governments would call it a public safety emergency. Fishing companies would worry about damaged gear. Tourism businesses would worry about beach closures. News channels would run the same blurry clip for days. A massive dorsal fin cutting through gray water beside a whale carcass. Some people would demand protection for the animal. Others would demand it be killed before it attacks swimmers or boats. But here is the truth. Megalodon would probably not see humans as ideal prey. We are too small, too bony, too little reward compared to a seal or whale. Most attacks on humans, if they happened, would likely be mistaken identity, defensive reactions, or accidents near boats and carcasses. The bigger danger would be indirect. A panicked whale hitting a boat. A fishing vessel capsizing after Megalodon strikes a net full of struggling tuna. A tourist boat getting too close to a feeding event. Humans would not be the main meal, but we would absolutely become part of the chaos. The most cinematic moment would come when Megalodon meets a whale migration route and an orca pod at the same time. Picture this. Off the coast of California, a gray whale mother pushes her calf north through cold blue water. Beneath them, Megalodon rises from the dark, silent and enormous. The calf drifts too far, the shark accelerates. Then the water erupts with black and white bodies. Orcas arrive, not to save the calf out of kindness, but because they are also hunters and this is their territory. For a few minutes, the ocean becomes a battlefield of evolution. Ancient power against modern intelligence. Megalodon lands one devastating strike, forcing the whales apart. The orcas answer with coordinated harassment, ramming, biting, and forcing the shark to turn. The shark is stronger, but every turn costs energy. Every bite attempt exposes its gills and eyes. Finally, Megalodon sinks lower. Not defeated, but denied. The pod wins the moment. The ancient king has learned that the modern sea is not empty, and the crown is no longer uncontested. So would Megalodon survive in the modern ocean? The answer is complicated. If only one Megalodon returned, it could survive for a while if it found warm waters, large prey, and enough space to hunt. It would terrify local ecosystems, disrupt migration routes, push sharks out of certain areas, and create a global media storm. But one animal does not rebuild an empire. To truly return, Megalodon would need a breeding population, safe nursery areas, stable prey supplies, and an ocean capable of supporting many giant predators. That is where the modern world becomes hostile. The ancient seas that supported Megalodon were filled with large marine mammals and different climate conditions. Today's oceans are stressed by warming, pollution, overfishing, ship traffic, and human pressure. A single Megalodon might become a legend. A population of Megalodons would become a crisis. If several Megalodons returned, the consequences would be much bigger. Whale populations could face new pressure. Great white shark behavior could change across entire coastlines. Orcas might avoid some areas or confront the sharks in groups. Fishing industries could lose gear and access to key zones. Scientists would race to understand how these animals hunt, migrate, reproduce, and interact with modern species. The military might track them. Conservationists might fight to protect them. Governments might debate whether a resurrected apex predator has the right to exist when its survival could damage recovering ecosystems. And ordinary people would look at the ocean differently. Every shadow beneath a surfboard would feel larger. Every whale carcass offshore would become a warning sign. Every unexplained sonar reading would make headlines. But would Megalodon destroy the entire ocean? Probably not. Nature is not that simple. Ecosystems bend, shift, and respond. Some animals would suffer, others would adapt. Scavengers would benefit from more carcasses. Sharks might change territories. Whales might alter routes. Orcas might become the only true check on Megalodon's power. Humans, as always, would become the most unpredictable factor. We might protect it, hunt it, study it, fear it, or accidentally make its survival impossible. In the end, Megalodon's greatest enemy might not be an orca, a great white, a crocodile, or a human with a harpoon. Its greatest enemy might be the modern ocean itself. Too noisy, too crowded, too damaged, and no longer built for giants. So if Megalodon returned today, it would not simply become the king again. It would become a ghost from a lost world, powerful enough to dominate any single encounter, but trapped in an ocean that has moved on without it. It could survive, it could kill, it could create panic across coastlines. But to rule the sea the way it once did, Megalodon would need more than teeth. It would need the ancient ocean back. And that may be the one thing even the most terrifying shark in history could never reclaim. If you want more simulations where prehistoric monsters are dropped into the modern world, follow the channel. Because next time, we may bring back something even stranger, even older, and maybe even more dangerous than Megalodon.